I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm standing outside of Boulevard Brewing Company. We've set up a private tour. We're going to meet with the founder and the brewmaster.
Full, no gas.
Actual gas. A little carne asada going here.
Words, as it's referred to at this point.
Join? Yep.
Thank you.
Here we are at the tasting room at Boulevard Brewing Company with John McDonald, the founder of the company, and we're just going to talk a little bit about Boulevard and the beers. This company started, what, about 20 years ago?
A little over that, 89, so we're 22 years old now. Yeah, we started really small, just 3 or 4 employees, and obviously brew beer once a week and clean up and deliver beer and do the paperwork and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a small little place.
I've been here since '99. You know, I really don't know anything else to do. It's the only thing I've been doing my whole life. I'm from Belgium, so I went to brewing school, figured, you know, if I have to go to college, I might as well do something fun. So I ended up doing brewing school, and then I started working in breweries. So since '91.
I don't really know when the craft beer kind of the thing took off, but I noticed that it's been getting really, really popular as of lately.
You know, it was really started off slow. You know, in the early 80s. We started in '89, so we weren't the first, but we were in the first wave of small breweries in this country. And I think really with the idea that they believed in kind of local regional brewing was a good thing. And you know, in contrast to the big mega national and international breweries, I think that was sort of our idea, and I think it's been a good one, because you see all these small breweries now starting up all over the country, and yeah, for the most part. But there's been some, you know, hills and valleys in the growth for sure.
I think it's just part of a whole movement. It's probably a movement that started in the '70s when winemakers are starting to concentrate on making bigger, bolder wines, and you know, the growth of the Cabernet Sauvignons and, you know, Bordeaux style wines, and you know, the same thing is happening now in the beer industry. I think people just want to spend their money probably wiser, and much better have one beer instead of 5. I mean, that's what I think, and that's what I do.
We have quantity versus quality.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, that's...
I said that backwards, quality versus quantity.
It's quality versus quantity, yeah. Don't put any words in my mouth.
Is that right in saying you guys are like the largest craft brewer, at least in the Midwest, right?
You know, in the central Midwest, we are. But you know, when you say big, you know, the brewery on the other side of the state probably makes 400 million barrels, and we make 160,000. So you have to, you know, realize who you are and where you've come from.
Here, like, you guys are doing a lot of automation and a lot of new technology now, but for the home brewer, I mean, the principles are still the same.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why we do automation is because our customers expect that our beer is consistent, and we want to take as much as the human error out of when we make beer. That really has nothing to do with making good beer, or, you know, or better beer or worse beer. You know, we really focus on trying to keep our beer fresh for a long time. when you start in a small scale as a brewer, you know, there's things that you have to do because you just don't have the setup to do it properly. As long as you're on that road that you know, like, okay, I'm learning, and I know that, okay, I'm going to buy a DO meter and measure my DO in my beer during the process, and I'm going to figure out, well, how can I get this lower? So, you know, it's progress. And when I started here in '99, you know, we had one DO meter, and that was about it, and a microscope. And you know, in the meantime, we have now 4 quality people and DO meters in line and even stuff like that.
Technology back in the late 80s, early 90s, one, couldn't afford it, and 2, we wouldn't have known how to use it had we been able to afford it. But over the years, as technology's gotten cheaper, and you know, we've hired a lot of really smart people to help us manage all the technology, and so we've really embraced it, and we think it makes better beer.
It's just a matter of, as you grow, don't forget that you're making a quality beer. I think at any given time we might have about probably 12 different beers going at any given time. But some of them are big quantities, some of them are small, really small amounts. Like wheat beer is our #1 seller, and that's just a lot, big quantity. Also pale ale and IPA.
What would you kind of say to people that think like, oh, I tried a craft beer and I didn't like it?
Right. I think every brewery has an entry-level beer. I mean, in our case, it is wheat beer is an entry-level beer, and there's people out there who really do not like wheat beer. They don't like the taste of it. They don't like the graininess in it, the grain flavors. They don't like the citrus character. They just don't like it. Well, I mean, for them, then the entry beer is probably a pale ale or an amber ale. You know, beers that are not really, that are maybe a little bit more hoppiness, but have the nice caramel, bready taste to it. Or, you know, and then from there on, people will grow and they go like, well, I like pale ales, but I like hops. Well, then go for an IPA. And that way you kind of keep going, keep moving forward. There's very seldom that I find people that go like, I drank, you know, a light beer for all my life, and now I just tasted a double IPA, and God, that is the beer that I like. It doesn't work that way usually.
You know, back in '89, it was rare to see somebody order one of our beers, and I used to almost feel like getting up and kissing them if they were drinking our beer back in the late '80s, early '90s. So yeah, but you know, more and more people, I think, have chosen to support local breweries all over the country, and that's a great thing.
I like, you know, pairing food and beer is just amazing. Just, you know, cheese and beer is fantastic, I think. Just start with that, pieces of bread, good bread, cheese, and beers. And so, I mean, that's what I like to do.
I mean, I always say that working's a horrible thing, so you got to try to make it as good as you can. So we try to do that.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.